Hi guys, welcome back to the channel again. In today's video we are going to perform a full Arch Linux install, dual booting with Windows 10 on a UEFI system, but on a separate hard disk. So let's get going.
So I booted up now from the ISO and I'm connected to the terminal via SSH. So let's get going, and the first thing you might also want to do is to check your key map. I don't have a US keyboard and the Arch ISO boots up with a US keyboard, so I need to find out my keyboard layout. And to do this, I will type in locale, ctl, then list dash key maps, and then space, and then a pipe symbol, and then grep, because we need to look for our key map. So I have a Swiss keyboard and its connotation is CH. So I can put in here CH. You can change, of course, the connotation of your keyboard here and hit enter. And you can see I get a list of results here, and the one I'm looking for is the first one, so DE_CH-latin1. So to load this in memory, now we can type in load keys, and then the string, so DE_CH-latin1, and hit enter. And this is done, so we can clean up the terminal. Now we can check for our internet connection, so we can type in IP space A and hit enter. And as you can see here, I have an IP ending with 63 because I have an Ethernet cable plugged in into my PC. If you have Wi-Fi, you can type in now Wi-Fi-menu. And when you hit enter, you'll see a list of networks. You can select yours, enter the password, and you'll have an IP as well. So let me clean this up. Now we can synchronize the network time protocol. And to do this, we'll type in time date ctl set-ntp and then true, and hit enter. So internet is done. Let's clean up the terminal. Now we can proceed by configuring our mirror list. So the mirror list contains the list of servers from where we download the packages for our installation. So to do that, I will install a package called Reflector. So let's type in first pacman-syyyy to synchronize once the servers. And it's going to take a moment to do that. And now we can install Reflector by typing in pacman-s and then Reflector and hit enter. Then we just hit enter here to proceed with installation, and Reflector is installed. So let's clean up the terminal and type in Reflector-C for the country. So I am in Switzerland. You can replace this, of course, with your country. I'll type in Switzerland. Then -A for the age. So since how many hours the server has been updated. So in my case, 6 hours. You might not want to go under 6 hours because you might not find any server. And then --sort, because we want to sort the server by speed. That means the parameter is rate. And then we are going to save this information into our mirror list directory, which is --save. And the mirror list directory is /etc/pacman.d/mirrorlist, and hit enter. So now we can synchronize one more time our servers. And to do this, we'll type in again pacman-syyyy and hit enter. And there you go. Our mirror list is now done. Let's clean up the terminal and let's proceed to our disk. Let's type in lsblk and let's have a look at our disks here. So we have SDA 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our Windows disk where 4 partitions are installed. So we need to find out a little bit more information about these partitions because we need to know which one of these partitions is the EFI partition where we will need to install Grub. So let's type in shortly cfdisk and then /dev/SDA. This is a disk where Windows is installed, and hit enter. And we can see here SDA1 is the Windows recovery environment. SDA2 is our EFI system, so the EFI partition. We have a SDA3 partition for Microsoft reserved stuff, and the C drive where Windows is installed is SDA4. So this is good info to know. We can quit out of cfdisk here and clean up the terminal. And let's look also at SDB. SDB is here, and this is where Arch is going to be installed. So we need to partition first SDB. This is a UEFI system, so in theory we should have a EFI partition and a root partition. Those are mandatory. Now we have already a EFI partition here on SDA2, so we are going to use this partition to install Grub here. If you don't want to do this and you prefer to boot actually from the BIOS on a different operating system, then you will have to create also the EFI partition on SDB. But in my case, I want to be able to dual boot both Windows and Arch Linux from the same partition, so I'm going to use SDA2 for that. That means on SDB, I'm just going to create one partition, so a root partition. Later during the installation, I'm going to create also a swap file. So let's proceed partitioning the disk, and we'll type in fdisk /dev/SDB and hit enter. Now this is a UEFI system and I have to create a GPT label. So I'll type in G and hit enter. And the GPT label is created. Now let's create our partition by typing in N for new and hit enter. Partition number 1 is default, so we just hit enter here. First sector is also fine as a default, so we just hit enter here. And the last sector basically defines the size of the partition. And I'm going to set the defaults here because I want to create only one partition. So I just hit enter here. Now we need to write these changes to the disk. So we'll type in W and hit enter. And the partition table has been altered. So let's clean up the terminal and type again lsblk. And we can see we have now SDB1 where Arch Linux is going to be installed. So we created now the partition. Now we need to format it. So let's type in mkfs.ext4. So make a ext4 file system. And then the partition path is /dev/sdb1. And hit enter. There you go. Let's clean up the terminal. lsblk again to have always our partitions in front of us. Now we need to mount the partitions. So first let's mount SDB1, which is our installation partition. So let's type in mount /dev/sdb1 and then /mount, which is our installation directory, and hit enter. Now we want to mount SDA2, which is the UEFI partition created by Windows, into the boot directory in our Arch install, which is not existing yet. So we need to create first the boot directory, and we can do this by typing in mkdir and then /mount, which is already existing, and then /boot, and hit enter. Now we can mount SDA2 into this boot directory. So let's type in mount /dev/sda2 in /mount /boot, and hit enter. Now I want to be able also to access my Windows installation from my Arch Linux install. So that means I need to create also a directory for SDA4. And let's do this by typing in mkdir /mount / I'm going to call my partition Windows, and hit enter. Now we can mount SDA4 into this directory here in the Windows directory. So let's type in mount /dev/sda4 and then /mount /windows, and hit enter. Now let's type again lsblk. To see our mount points, we have SDA2 on the boot directory, SDA4, the Windows installation on the Windows directory, and we have SDB1 mounted on our installation directory. So now we can proceed to install the base packages, and we'll type in pacstrap /mount and then base. This is our base system, and then Linux. This is going to install the latest Linux kernel, then Linux-firmware, and also an editor, which we'll need later. So in my case, Nano. If you have an Intel processor, you might want to install also Intel-ucode. It's going to provide some extra firmware for the processor. And if you have an AMD processor, you can install AMD-ucode. So I'm on my virtual machines here, so I don't need to do this, and I can delete this package, and then we can just hit enter. So it's going to take a moment here to download and install the packages, and I'll be back when it's done. So the packages are installed, and we can clean up the terminal, and now it's time to generate the file system table, and we'll do this by typing in gen fstab, and then -U. It's going to be generated using the UUID of the partitions, then /mount, and we are going to append this information to /mount /etc/fstab, and hit enter. Now let's have a look at the fstab file shortly. Let's type in cat /mount /etc/fstab, and hit enter. So we see here we have SDB1, our root partition, with its UUID, its mount point, file system type, options, and file system checks, and the same for the boot directory and the Windows directory. So everything looks good, and we can clean up the terminal. And now we can enter the installation and leave the ISO installer. So we'll type in arch-root and then /mount, and hit enter. The login prompt changed. That means we are now in the installation. So we can clean up the terminal and create our swap file. So let's type in fallocate -L for length or size. I want the swap file to be 2 GB. So I'll type in 2 GB and then /swap file, and hit enter. Now I need to change the permissions of the swap file, so I'll type in chmod 600 and then /swap file, and hit enter. Now we can make the swap by typing in mkswap, then /swap file, and hit enter. And now we can activate the swap by typing in swap on /swap file, and hit enter. Now we need to put the swap file into the fstab file. So let's type in nano/etc/fstab and hit enter. Go down to the empty space here and enter first the name of the partition, so /swap file. The mount point is none, it doesn't have any. The file system type is swap. Options are defaults. And file system checks are 0 and 0. And then Ctrl O and enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit the editor. Now let's clean up the terminal and work on our localization stuff. So first we need to find out our time zone. And to do this, we can type in time, date, CTL, list-time zones. And again, I add a pipe here and the grep function because I want to narrow the search down to my city. So you can replace, of course, this with your city. In my case, it's Zurich. And then I can hit enter. So my time zone is Europe/Zurich. So I need to tell this to the system. So let's type in ln-sf/user/zone-info/Europe/Zurich. And we are going to link this to /etc/local-time and hit enter. Now we can synchronize the hardware clock to the system clock, and we'll type in hwclock --sys2hc and hit enter. Now we can work on the locale.gen file. So let's type in nano/etc/locale.gen and hit enter. Here we can select our locales. So we can select more than one, but in my case, I just want to have English US, and I'm going to scroll down until I see it right here. And we need to select the one which has UTF-8. So we just uncomment the line here by deleting the hashtag, and then hit Ctrl O and enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit the editor. Now we can generate the locales by typing in locale-gen and hit enter. Now we also need to work on the locale.conf file. So to do this, we can type in echo double quotes, and then lang, all capital letter, equal our locale string we chose before. So in my case, en_us.utf-8, and then double quote again, and we append this information to /etc/locale.conf and hit enter. Now, if you selected a different key map at the beginning of the video, we need to put this also in the vconsole.conf file. So we can do this by typing in echo double quotes key map equal the key map we chose at the beginning. So in my case, it was de_ch-latin1. Then double quote again, and we append this information to /etc and then /vconsole.conf and hit enter. There you go. Let's clean up the terminal, and now let's create our hostname. So we'll type in nano/etc/hostname and hit enter. So I call my machine Arch. Very simply, you can select the name you want and then hit Ctrl O and enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit the editor. And now we need to also edit the host file. So I'll type in nano/etc/hosts and hit enter. Go down to the empty space here and type in the IPv4 address, which is 127.0.0.1, a tab, and then localhost. The next line, the IPv6 address, which is ::1, then tab, and then localhost again. And in the last line, 127.0.1.1, a tab, and then our hostname first, so Arch in my case, .local domain, then a tab again, and then Arch again, our hostname. You can replace this, of course, accordingly. Then Ctrl O and enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit editor. Now we need to give the root user here a password, so we'll type in passwd and hit enter. Enter the new password and retype it. And there you go. Now let's clean up the terminal and install our Grub bootloader and some other packages. So let's install by typing in pacman-s. So Grub, our bootloader. Then EFI boot mgr because it's a UEFI system. Then network manager. And also network-manager-applet. And also wireless_tools. And also WPA_supplicant. Then dialog, and also OS-prober, because we have Windows installed, we need this. We have also mtools and DOS FS tools, 2 packages for working with FAT file systems. Then 2 development packages, one is base-devel, and also Linux-headers. And I'm going to install also Reflector to have it available in the installation. And I'm going to install also Git, because it's going to help us installing Yay, the helper for the Arch user repository. And some packages also for our Bluetooth adapters. One is Blues, The other one is blues-utils. We have also pulse audio-bluetooth. And I would install also CUPS, our printing system. And because we have also Windows installed, I want to install also NTFS-3G, which is going to allow us to access Windows partitions. And I'm going to install also OpenSSH so that I can connect to my terminal afterwards. This is optional for you guys. If you want to install it, you can go ahead, but I need to install this. And then we can just hit enter. Accept the defaults by hitting enter and proceed with installation by hitting enter. So again, it's going to take some time here to download and install the packages, and I'll be back when it's done. So the packages are installed. Let's clean up the terminal and let's proceed installing Grub, our bootloader. So let's type in grub-install. The first parameter is the target. So let's type in --target equal. This is a 64-bit machine, so let's type in x86_64-EFI. And then we need to define the EFI directory, so let's type in --EFI-directory equal. You remember at the beginning when we mounted the partition, it was /boot. And then we need to define the bootloader ID, so we'll type in --bootloader-ID equal grub and hit enter. There you go. Now we need to configure Grub also, so we'll type in grub-mkconfig-o for the output. The output is going to go under /boot/grub/grub.cfg and hit enter. So as you can see here, Grub found our Linux image and also the Windows Boot Manager. That means Grub is going to have two entries, one for Arch Linux and one for Windows. So let's clean up the terminal and let's proceed by enabling some services which we will need after rebooting. The first one is our internet connection. So we'll type in systemctl enable network manager and hit enter. The next one is Bluetooth. So let's type in systemctl enable Bluetooth and hit enter. And the next one is our printing system. So let's type in systemctl enable org.cups.cupsd and hit enter. And then I need to also enable OpenSSH. So I'll type in systemctl enable sshd and hit enter. There you go. Now we can create a new user for the system. Let's type in user add -M and then wheel and then the username you want to add. So in my case, my name and hit enter. So we told the system here to create a username with the name Hermano with its own home directory, that's the M option, and the wheel as a supplementary group, that's the G. And now let's give a password to the user, so we'll type in passwd and the username and hit enter. Enter the new password and retype it. And now let's type in editor equal nano and then sudo and hit enter. Now let's scroll down here. We need to look for the wheel group. And we need to select the one which has the line all equal all, and that's this one right here, the first one. We just need to uncomment this line here by deleting the hashtag and then hit Ctrl-O and enter to save the file and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. Now we are ready to exit the installation and return to the ISO installer. So let's type in exit. Now we need to unmount the partition, so let's type in umount-A. And now let's reboot the system by typing in reboot and hit enter. And I need to go back to my machine to see my bootloader here. And there you go. It's right there. And we have Arch Linux and Windows Boot Manager. So I'll hit Arch Linux here because we need to continue the installation. And I'll log in with my username and my password. And I'll just need to check my IP so that I can connect via SSH again. And that's an IP with 64. So I can minimize this, clean up the terminal here and type in SSH hermano at 192.168.178.64 and hit enter. Accept the fingerprint, enter my password, and I'm logged in. So the first thing we need to do now is to check our internet connection. So let's type in again IP space A. And again, I have an Ethernet cable connected to my PC, so I have already an IP working on here. If you have Wi-Fi, now it's the time to type in NMTUI and hit enter. And then you go to activate that connection. You'll see a list of networks here. You can select yours, enter the password, and you'll be connected as well. So let's log out and clean up the terminal. Now let's proceed by installing our graphics drivers. So let's type in sudo pacman-s So I'm on a virtual machine, so I need to install a specific package here, but I'll give you also the packages for Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA cards in a second. So let me type in xf86-video-vmware, and I hit enter here to proceed with my installation. Enter my sudo password and hit enter, and my drivers are installed. So if you have an Intel card, you can replace here VMware with Intel. If you have an AMD card, you can replace Intel with AMD GPU. And if you have an NVIDIA card, you can replace the whole thing here with NVIDIA and NVIDIA-utils. So go ahead and install your drivers, and we can proceed by installing after our display server. So Xorg, we can install it with this command, sudo pacman-s and then Xorg, and hit enter. Accept the defaults by hitting enter and proceed with the installation here by hitting enter. It's going to take a moment to download and install the packages. It's not going to take too long. There you go. We can clean up the terminal again. And next is we need to install our display manager. So in this tutorial, I'm going to install GNOME, and the display manager for GNOME is GDM. So I will install this by typing in sudo pacman-s GDM and hit enter. Proceed with the installation by hitting enter. Again, it's going to take a moment to install the packages. There you go. Now we need to enable GDM so that it starts up at boot. So let's type in sudo systemctl enable GDM and hit enter. And there you go. Now we can install our desktop environment. So let's type in sudo pacman-s and then GNOME. This is the base package. And the other package I want to install is GNOME-extra to have a more complete user experience. And an extra package I'm going to install is xtg-utils. And then I'm just going to hit enter and accept the defaults here by hitting enter one more time. And also here the defaults, and one more time again. And here we can proceed with the installation by hitting enter. So again, it's going to take a moment here to download and install the packages, and I'll be back when it's done. There you go, the packages are now installed. So let's clean up the terminal. Now we can also install our productivity suite, LibreOffice. We can do this by typing in sudo pacman-s LibreOffice and hit enter. And here we have two repositories. So we have the fresh repository for the latest version and the still repository for the more stable version. I'm going to go for the fresh version here. So I'll accept the defaults by hitting enter and proceed with the installation by hitting enter. So here it's going to take a moment to install it, and I'll be back when it's done. And there you go. So we can clean up the terminal here. Now, we installed Git, if you remember before, and this is useful to install Yay, the helper for the Arch user repository. So let's use Git to do that. Let's type in git clone and then https://aur.archlinux.org, then /yay.git, and hit enter. Now we created a Yay directory here, and we need to go in there. So let's type in cd and then Yay and hit enter. Now let's make the package by typing in make pkg-si and then package build, all capital letters, and hit enter. Let's proceed now with the installation of the dependencies by hitting enter here, and it's going to take a moment, so I'll be back when it's done. Now we can proceed installing Yay by hitting enter, and Yay is installed. Let's clean up the terminal. Let me go back to the home directory here. And so let's proceed now by installing some fonts. So of course Arch Linux comes with its fonts, but it would be nice to have also the Windows fonts we have in our Windows installation. So we can copy over those fonts, and I rather copy them than link them. And I recommend you to do so as well if you plan to install Chrome afterwards, because linking the fonts, which is also possible, will break probably Chrome. So before we can do that, we need to create a Windows fonts directory in our Arch installation. So let's do this by typing in sudo mkdir, and then /user/share/fonts, and I'll call my directory Windows fonts, and hit enter. Now we can copy the fonts from our Windows installation. So let's type in sudo cp, then /windows, this is our Windows directory, and then /windows again, then /fonts, /*, and we're going to copy those under /user/share/fonts/Windows fonts, and hit enter. There you go. Now we need to change the permissions of our directory here in Linux so that we can read the fonts. So we can type in sudo chmod 644, then /user/share/fonts/Windows fonts, and then an asterisk, so everything in there is visible to the system, and then hit enter. Now we need to regenerate the font cache, so let's type in fc-cache-f and hit enter. It's going to take a second to do this. And there you go. So we can clean up the terminal. Now we can use yay to install Timeshift, the powerful backup program to back up our system. So we can do this by typing in yay-s and then Timeshift and hit enter. Now differences to show here, I will say no with the N and hit enter. And now we can proceed with the installation of the dependencies by hitting enter. And again, it's going to take a moment here to compile the package, so I'll be back when it's done. And there you go, the package is now installed. So we can clean up the terminal. Now there is one last thing I would like to install, and this will make it a little bit more Archie-like. And those are the Arch Linux wallpapers. So let's type in sudo pacman-s and then Arch Linux wallpaper and hit enter. Let's proceed with installation by hitting enter. And those wallpapers are now installed. So we can clean up the terminal. Now, the last thing before we reboot the machine is if you have an SSD, there is the FS trim timer that you can activate. This will activate the periodic trim, which will keep your SSD performing better and longer. If you have an SSD, I definitely recommend you do this, as it's going to benefit your SSD drive. And to activate it, you can type in sudo systemctl enable fstrim.timer. And then you just hit enter. So in my case, I don't do this because this is not an SSD, I'm on a virtual machine. But if you have an SSD, as I said before, do that, it will benefit your drive. So now we are ready to reboot our machine. So first I need to exit the SSH shell. So I'll type in exit here. And now I can close up the terminal. And I pull up again my virtual machine here. And here I can type in reboot and hit enter. So I'm going to go already full screen. And I'm going to select Arch Linux. And there you go, we have our GDM here, so we can enter our password and hit enter. And there you go, we are in GNOME. So let me first adjust my screen resolution here. I go to display settings and select here 200% and hit apply and keep changes. There you go. So now let's put also our Arch Linux wallpaper. That's why we came for, right? So let's right click and click change background. And let's scroll down here to our Arch wallpapers. There they are. So let me pick a nice one. Let's see, let's go with this one right here. There you go. So let's have a look at our system if everything is correct. So let's go to the activities menu here and look for our LibreOffice. We have LibreOffice here, so let's have a look. And click OK here. I see already the Microsoft fonts were correctly installed, and that's nice. Let's have a look at the versions. So help and then about LibreOffice. We have version 6432, which is the latest one. This is great. So let's close this up and let's close also the window. The last thing which I think is still missing, it's our browser. So let's pull up a terminal and I'll increase the font size here. And let's type in sudo pacman-syyuu again to upgrade the packages first. And there is nothing. So now we can install, for example, Chromium. So let's do this by typing in sudo pacman-s and then Chromium and hit enter. Proceed with installation here by hitting enter. It's going to take a second to install Chromium. There you go. So we can close this up and have a look if Chromium is there. And indeed it's there, up and running. So everything went well. So let's close this up. Let's have a look also at the file manager because we need to check our Windows installation here. And let's click here on other locations and let's go to our computer here. And let's have a look. This is our Windows directory where Windows is installed. So let's have a look in here and see we have our users and my name here, and I have my home directories in Windows here. So let's say that, for example, I want to have my pictures here always available in Linux. So I can take this folder here and drag it here to the new bookmarks. And now I have my Windows pictures always available here. And if I download also something from the internet, a picture, let's say, I can put it right in here and it will appear in Windows as well. So we can close this up. Everything was installed correctly. So this is the full installation of Arch Linux, installing on a second drive dual booting with Windows 10 on a UEFI system.
So there you go, this is how you can install Arch Linux dual booting with Windows 10 on a separate drive. This tutorial was for UEFI systems. I'm gonna do another video for MBR systems very soon, so stay tuned for that. I hope you liked the video, guys. If you did, please hit the like button below and subs to the channel if you haven't already. Subs always helps us out. If you want to support the channel, you can visit our Patreon website. If you want to donate to the channel, you can do that as well through the website. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.